I felt happy that Kokichi was already adjusting to some of the new features he has. Because of being a vampire, the things and the cravings are what I noticed after a while of having them. I was mostly in pain because it was an attack instead of a planned change. And by what that man and Cathy have said, I highly doubt he would give two shits if he hurt my Kichi or not.
Shumai?
Kokichi said, pulling back from the kiss. I blushed seeing his eyes looking straight at me. I couldn't understand why I was so embarrassed all of a sudden, but Kokichi took notice of this quickly.
Shushu, are you feeling alright? Did I bite you too hard?
He asked, innocently tilting his head with a smile. I looked away, feeling my face become even more inflamed as he teased me more.
But Shu, I want to see your face!
He exclaimed before he moved closer to me. My eyes were closed tightly because of how embarrassed I felt. I hate having to feel this embarrassed about something I don't even know. Maybe this is how getting bit affects me. I know it makes Kokichi clingy and more anxious. Maybe I get super flustered when he bites me. Interesting. No, I said, swatting his hand away as I kept my eyes closed. He sighed and slowly moved up closer to the point I could feel his breath on my neck.
My Shu was already so embarrassed.
He said with a hum against my neck. I groaned at the feeling and immediately felt more awkward because of the sound. My eyes shut open, only to be met with a blushing Kokichi. His eyes were looking up at me with a confused glance. His cheeks were only slightly colored pink, and I'm certain mine must have been a deep red at this point. Sorry, I said, moving my hands to cover my face, but he caught my hands before I could cover my eyes. He smirked before he began kissing my hands.
Shuichi, you shouldn't try to hide yourself from me, you know?
He said in a more serious tone. It made me flinch hearing his voice, and I felt some tears coming to my eyes as he moved a little away from me.
Shuichi?
He asked, moving to wipe my tears. But before he could do so, I wrapped my arms around his shoulders and pulled him into my chest. Sorry, you were just so far away, I said, feeling more tears spill out of my eyes.
Aw, silly Shumai.
He whispered, moving his head into the crook of my neck.
I wouldn't leave you, silly. I'm going to stay right here.
He laughed a bit under his breath before pulling back to look at me.
You're stuck with me after all, you know,
he said with a teasing glance. Before I could even process it, my lips were on Kokichi's. I wasn't sure if it was me or Kokichi who made that happen, but that doesn't matter much.
Do you need anything?
He said with a small smile. I blushed and looked to the side for a small moment before facing Kokichi again, partially out of fear of how he would react to me disobeying him again. No, I whispered under my breath, feeling more tears come to my eyes as I just felt broken all of a sudden.
She was always such a crybaby,
he said, wiping away my tears before kissing both my cheeks. I was going to ask him what he was doing before he moved into my lap. I jumped at the sudden contact, but soon calmed down.
I can stay here if you're feeling lonely, Shu.
He teased, before the blush on my cheeks increased. Okay, I said back, before I pulled his back against my chest. I rested my head on his and let out a content sigh. I'm glad he is here with me, because I feel so safe with him.
So, what now?
He suddenly asked. I moved a bit so I could see over him and into his lap. He was playing with his hair with one hand. That must mean he's nervous? I have no clue, honestly. It means something. Well, now that you are a vampire, you're going to have to get used to living like one, I said into his hair, making him giggle a bit.
But don't you just act the same way other humans do, Shu?
He asked, turning around in my lap so he was now facing me. Well, there's going to be cravings like you had before, and I've noticed that when either of us bites the other, they have a reaction to it, and that can last up from a few minutes to an hour, I said, feeling his hands move to hold my own.
Will I not be able to see Dice again?
He asked, making me flinch a bit. I want him to be able to live with them in his life, because they are his family and they have been there for him when everyone else was shunning him. So I will make sure that he is able to stay there while being able to keep Dice safe. I don't think you won't ever be able to see them again. We should be able to go back tomorrow. I mean, if Cathy gives you the "you're good to go," of course, I said, rubbing his shoulders, making him relax a bit.
That's good.
He said under his breath, before his eyes slid closed again. I thought he was going to fall asleep again, but he ended up just opening his eyes again.
Just kidding! Did I getcha?
He asked with a smirk. I blushed at the action and just rustled his hair with my hand.
Hey, you're messing up my hair!
He exclaimed. Moving my hand away from his hair, I laughed a bit and held his hand. You're just way too cute, I whispered, holding him against my chest.
Shumai, you're smothering me!
He said in a teasing tone. I pulled away a bit before nervously scratching my neck. Sorry, I whispered.
Nah, it's cool.
He paused before moving back to my face. His lips were so close to mine, it felt like they were already touching.
And I just get to get you back anyway.
He said, making a shiver go down my spine.
But that's for later anyways.
He said, pulling back, making me frown. I grabbed his cheeks, causing him to make a confused hum before I placed my lips on his own. He mumbled something against my lips before he ended up kissing back. I felt my shoulders relax at this. It's nice to just be here with Kokichi, knowing he is safe and protected by my side, knowing that we have our bonds and nothing can change that. I heard a knock at the door, making me pull away from the kiss.
Shuichi?
Kokichi asked. Before looking over at the door, I felt some fear come over me before I heard a familiar voice.
It's just me. I just wanted to talk to the two of you, if that's alright.
Cathy asked from behind the door. I felt the fear go away from my shoulders in an instant.
Yeah, you can come in.
Kokichi yelled before Cathy walked into the room.
Ah, Kokichi, I'm glad you're doing alright.
She said, moving to sit back on the bed again. I blushed at the position me and Kokichi were in before I shook my head a few times. It's just Cathy, and she already knows about our relationship. So why is this making me so damn flustered?
Yeah, couldn't be better.
He chirped before wrapping his arms around my neck while his legs wrapped around my waist, making me wrap my arms around his back.
I'm glad.
She paused before looking me in the eyes.
I don't want to rush either of you, but know that staying anywhere where they would be able to find you won't be safe.
She said with a frown. This made Kokichi frown as well. I see, I said with a frown.
Well, the base isn't the only home we have,
Kokichi said, turning to face Cathy.
In Dice, we have some hallways down in the basement after going down a ladder that lead to some other bases. So I could just stay in one of those with Shuichi.
He said, before he cut himself off. What did he think of just now?
That sounds reasonable. Why don't you do that then?
Cathy said, clasping her hands together. I smiled at her and looked back at Kokichi. Is this really going to be safe?